Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome. Please remember to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and share, as well as feel free to leave your comments in the comments section. To my subscribers, welcome back. Always lovely to have you. Yes. And I, as always, thank you for the support that you give this channel. Please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up from now on. You know the ropes. And share, and then you can rejoin me. Yes. And of course, I don't have to tell you that you're quite welcome to leave your comments in the comment section, because you always do, and I always appreciate it. Thank you very much. And also thank you very much for liking and sharing the video. Great. So now that you're back with me, let's get down to business. All right, so what are we going to be speaking about today? Okay, I will be speaking chiefly about the Rise bosses, Mark Golding and Peter Bunting, and their use of polls in order to position themselves, in order to position themselves to win elections. Yes, I am going to tell you where they did it before and why it is that they are running these polls and what they hope to accomplish by running these polls. These polls that these risers are using and their anticipated and expected results. Yes, my peeps. They're running these polls for a certain effect. Them using it as a strategy. My peeps, the same strategy the Bunting and Golding use to boost up Bunting and make it nearly beat Peter Phillips. The polls are the same strategy now. Them a try to make this a lame as him win. Yes, man. Them a use the same poll. The very same strategy what them use to bring down Peter Phillips and bring down the party in order to make sure it lose the election in 2020 so that them can elevate themselves to the leadership. Because they don't have their fake group and everything they line up already. Yes, me peeps, 400 fake groups for the most part with 600 delegates. Yes, and them the things that the man them they go on with. So the same strategy what them use are the same strategy them a come back with now. The polls, yes, me peeps. So whereas the poll in the past came out with information, say the PNP could not win with Peter Phillips, and the comrade them said, no man, maybe we should have get rid of Peter, man, because we want to win. Them a use the same poll now to create the impression that Mark can win. The PNP can win with Mark. Every time we out there we attack as resistance and say the man have no traction and that the man can't win. The poll come out, come show say first of all the PNP fly past the JLP. And so now, some of the comrade them, especially the one them, the power brokers them are the one get the lion's share everything when the party is in power. Them now start to say, but it look like we can't win. You get the point, my peeps? Now that the party look like it can't win, because Paul say the party can't win, them start to gone in now, but that's what, then I have nothing with Mark, not at all. And then because in position was very shaky and everybody look for different leader, then make sure say Paul start to show say him a catch up with Andrew, till you hear saying fly past Andrew, and now party past Andrew, and him fly past Andrew, and yet the local government election roll in, and the PNP never win the majority of the councils. So that tells you something. But I feel them tricks that. So them use the poll to undermine the party and sabotage it, right? And get rid of the leader. And them use the poll now to see if they can get this a lame duck here in a Jamaica House. And them fingers upon the land them where the country own. And whatever else I'm interested in putting them fingers upon. So my peeps, I saw it set. Man, them a use poll, come back with the same trick, and trick up some of the comrade them, but the one them like we see the trick, and we know not with them. And yes, my peeps, the resistance in the party, stiff same way. Them don't have them base. That was what happened in February. So no lying poll can't convince the comrades to come on board with them, but them still a hold on the lame duck anyway. So when the poll them start run now, showing that the PNP was behind, and Mas Andrew popularity through the roof, and Peter Phillips one was down in the dumps. Instead of Bunting him go now and try to see how him can help him leader. Him none of that. And I think I showed you in that previous video why Bunting hates Peter Phillips. Yes. Never interested in that at all, my peeps. Having vexation for a long time. Rivalry are gone. So, poll run during the campaign now, right? Make him announcement. Say him I go run, right? After the PNP lost East Portland, him take advantage of it now. So poll run. Poll shows Bunting 18 points ahead of Phillips. So this poll was published, the poll result was published August 7, 2019, when the internal campaign was in full swing. Remember now, the election would have taken place in September, so it was only about a month or so away. So this is what it says. A just released Rise United Commission Don Anderson poll is showing People's National Party leadership aspirant Peter Bunting 18 points ahead of incumbent Peter Phillips in favorability rating. This is favorability now. The poll, conducted from July 20 to August 2 among 700 respondents, has a margin of error of plus or minus 3.5%. It found that 39% of respondents believed Bunting is better suited to lead the 80-year-old party at this time compared to the 21% in favor of Phillips. Bunting, who is leading the Rise United campaign, and Phillips, the leader of the One PNP camp, will face off in a high-stakes leadership election in Kingston on September 7, which happens to be Peter Bunting's birthday. Yes, man. Meanwhile, 25% of those polled said they were not sure who is better suited to lead the PNP at this time, and 16% said none of the two was suitable. So, Don Anderson asked the question, what if an election were to be called now? Well, according to the Rise United Don Anderson poll, you hear who commissioned the poll? Rise United, right? And that was led by, at least the campaign was led by Dayton Campbell, right? You recall that? I think so. And who is now commissioning the Don Anderson polls, which is now saying that Mark is way ahead of Andrew and all them something there? Who is commissioning those polls? Yes, the PNP and some unnamed business people. And since them unnamed and don't want to be named, they could just as well be proven or one of Bunting's companies or him associates, like the members of the Billionaires Club. Yes. So the pollster, Don Anderson, was commissioned by the Rise United movement. Bunting was the one who was seeking to challenge Phillips. And Dayton Campbell, I do believe, was the campaign manager, right? Mark, if I recall right, was he the campaign chairman? Yes, well, we'll sort that out shortly. But in any event, it's the same actors, right, that are now leading the PNP. Dayton Campbell is now the general secretary, and I suppose he would be the one that will be commissioning the polls on behalf of the party. Yes. So here is Mr. Bunting saying, according to the Rise United Don Anderson poll, the Jamaica Labour Party would come out on top if an election were to be called now. So what are they talking about? Well, at that time, the leader of the PNP was Peter Phillips. So when the respondents were responding to the question, what if an election were to be called now, right? And the JLP was on top, basically saying that had the election been called at that time, they're saying that the PNP would have lost and GLP win. So let me continue. The poll found 35% support for the GLP compared to 30% for the PNP. So the GLP, them saying, would have won with Peter Phillips as leader, right? However, 36% of the respondents believed that with Bunting as party president, PNP will have a better chance of winning against the Andrew Holness-led party in the next election compared to 16% for Phillips. So what them saying here now is that him wouldn't win or Bunting wouldn't win but he stand a good chance, stand a better chance, right, than Peter Phillips. That's what the respondents were saying. And this is what Bunting then put out, right? Great. So that is Mr. Bunting now using polls in order to increase his fortune and make him more, well, make him more winnable, so to speak. Yes, because him did the way behind. So him draft him checkbook and him dope him 650 million and him went to work. Yes, using the poll. Now, listen to this. This interview was conducted, as you can see, June 13 of 2019. I do believe he announced that he was going to challenge by this time. But let's just listen to this shocking piece of revelation that came out in this interview with Bunting. Let's listen.
Mr. Bunting says he doesn't have data to show his chances against Holness, but he's confident that if they start now, a renewed PNP with himself as leader can be victorious in the next general election. The Central Manchester MP recently released a national poll conducted by Don Anderson showing only 19% of respondents believing the current PNP leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, can lead the PNP to a general election victory. But Mr. Bunting says the poll didn't ask whether he would fare better than Phillips.
I quite frankly haven't done that polling because that would not have been appropriate at that time because I hadn't put myself into any leadership positioning in the public's mind. But we will do those polls as the campaign progresses and we'll see what the results. I'm sure even if I don't do the polls will be done.
Mr. Bunting says he has other research that points him in the direction he needs to focus on. He plans to formally launch his campaign in July ahead of the PNP's annual conference in September, where the leader is expected to be decided. He says his challenge is energizing the party's base.
Can you win the general election when it's called in 2021?
Yes, I believe we can. And I believe the process is starting right now. I believe just the challenge itself is energizing the base of the party. I've been pleasantly surprised at the overwhelming number of messages of support, etc., that I'm getting not only from formal party members, but just supporters.
He says he can deliver results.
I come to the table with much more relevant experience than Andrew Holness did when he became leader of the GLP and Prime Minister. I think I have a track record of successful management of various organizations in the private sector of differing sizes. Within the politics, I have 4 terms as a member of parliament, never contested a CFC, always taking on challenges and being successful. In political management from a national level, I think as General Secretary and campaign manager for the 2011 general election and 2012 local government election, the results were extraordinary. We delivered landslide victories.
Meanwhile, Mr. Bunting says he's not expecting a formal endorsement from former party leaders Portia Simpson-Miller or P.J. Patterson.
I have spoken with both of them as a courtesy before I discussed with them. But the tradition of the PNP also is that the former president do not take sides. I don't expect any formal endorsement from them, but ultimately it's their decision. They have both offered me words of advice and they are available in terms of soundings or whatever, but they're not, and I would not want to pull them into a sort of contest environment.
Did they tell you don't do it?
No, they didn't tell me that.
Mr. Bunting had posted images of himself and Mrs. Simsimilla since his announcement over the weekend, giving some the impression that she was endorsing him. However, in a statement on her official Facebook page yesterday, Mrs. Simsimilla says she's not choosing a side and asks that her name and image not be used in the campaign. Marjorie Gordon for Nationwide News.
So there you have it. Bunting wanted us to believe in that interview that he commissioned a poll asking the respondents what are Peter Phillips' chances of beating Andrew Holness, but not ask what is his chance. That is what he wanted us to believe at that time. Well, the Peter Phillips camp outsmarted him because by pointing out that he has not shown that he can beat Holness, it forced him to commission the poll and put out figures, and then try to do a public relations around the figures that he put out, that he stand a better chance of beating Andrew Holness than Peter Phillips. 36%, you remember, said that they believe he stood a better chance. They said so, you know. They believe he stood a better chance. And 16% said that they believe that Peter Phillips stood a chance. What he did not do is to show polls, if my memory serves me right, where the people said that they would vote for him. I don't recall seeing a poll like that. This selective putting out of these polls, because I'm sure he asked many questions, but he only select the ones that best suits him, right? Clearly the one that said how the people would vote did not suit him, so he didn't put that out, right? So he put out these selective polling results. Why? To influence public opinion. He was so far behind that he needed to catch up. And to catch up, he ran these polls in the hope that, one, it would seem to the comrades, because that's the electorate that he was about to face, it would seem to the comrade that he stood a chance, a better chance than Peter Phillips, by doing a national poll, because this is what this was, a national poll. So with this national poll, he was hoping that the comrades would say, "Ooh, well, it seems like saying he can't win, man. Maybe we should support him." That's the point. Remember, you know, the people in the party were lining up behind Peter Phillips. Some were a little disappointed because they thought that he was not very active, but then we found out later that he was ill, and that may have been the reason why he wasn't as active as he was before. So he used these polls to create an impression nationally that he can win, and internally in the PNP that he can win. And it's all because the people believe these polls. Are you understanding? Great. Of course, we all know what happened in the end, right? And what happened in the end did not reflect these poll results. Now, this is a letter to the editor, and this writer sums it up as well as one could hope. Bunting proves he is a better loser, releasing a poll showing himself trailing Mr. Holness seems rather counterproductive. Mr. Bunting is basically saying that he will be the better loser, right? Let's see if we can see what that article was about. So it was a letter to the editor, as I said, dated August 10, 2019, 3 days after that poll that Bunting ran, saying that, you know, him stood a better chance of beating Holness. This is this person called Garth Thompson, I believe, his response. The editor, sir, the fact that Peter Bunting has expressed that the major reason for challenging Peter Phillips is the party's inability to win with Phillips at the helm, and the fact that the slogan of his campaign is "We Can Win." I was expecting the polls to show Mr. Bunting ahead when compared to Andrew Holness. Yes, you would think so, wouldn't you? When it was announced that the Rise United camp was having a press conference to release poll results, one would believe that the polls would not just show Mr. Bunting ahead of Dr. Phillips, but also ahead of Mr. Holness. If the polls were showing Mr. Bunting leading Andrew Holness, that would have been a real turning point. In other words, this person is expressing surprise. This man went and launched a campaign to remove his leader 1 year before the election was due. And you will remember that interview that was done by Nationwide News Network, where they asked Bunting about the figures for him, because the poll that he had done only showed that 16% of the people, right, had an opinion about Dr. Peter Phillips. But they never said, or he never put out any poll showing what they thought about him and his chances of winning. So I'm going to play just that little clip of the interview so you can hear what it was that Bunting said.
Mr. Bunting says he doesn't have data to show his chances against Holness, but he is confident that if they start now, a renewed PNP with himself as leader can be victorious in the next general election. The Central Manchester MP recently released a national poll conducted by Don Anderson, showing only 19% of respondents believing the current PNP leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, can lead the PNP to a general election victory. But Mr. Bunting says the poll didn't ask whether he would fare better than Phillips.
I quite frankly haven't done that polling because that would not have been appropriate at that time, because I hadn't put myself into any leadership positioning in the public's mind. But we will do those polls as the campaign progresses, and we'll see what the results. I'm sure even if I don't do the polls will be done.
So he's telling us that he decided to challenge without knowing whether or not he can beat Dr. Peter Phillips. That's what he's trying to tell us. He did not do any research. He said he had some data that showed that he can win, right? But he did not do a polling. Of course, he probably couldn't, because then, the people would know what he's doing in the party. So he probably just went and canvassed the delegates and, he had that figure, right? But in terms of the national poll that he commissioned against his own leader, but yet him said that him never had any intention, him wasn't announced yet as a candidate. So when run the poll for? You follow me, my peeps? Oh my goodness. Let's see what else the writer had to say. Releasing a poll showing himself trailing Mr. Holness seems rather counterproductive. Mr. Bunting is basically saying that he will be the better loser. Bunting's camp should be disappointed that with all the promotion of their candidate and the current tours taking place, Mr. Bunting is still not doing well in the polls. Mr. Bunting has still not proven that he can win, which is the foundation of his bid for presidency. You heard that? Very true. That is why he must prepare to spend so much money in order to take over the leadership from what then would have appeared to have been the weakest leader that the PNP has seen for a while. That is how it would appear because of the polls that he, Bunting, was commissioning. Follow me, my peeps? So that is what Dr. Peter Phillips was up against, right? Polls that were done showing that he could not beat Andrew Holness. That was what they wanted the comrades to believe, first of all. He, Dr. Peter Phillips, could not beat Andrew Holness. That's what they want to drum into their heads. Once they succeed in getting that idea into the comrades' heads, especially the delegates, that now set them up for the visuals, these big crowds. Now, remember, Bunting got 1,371 votes, I believe. This looked like maybe more than 1,000 people were present, suggesting that this was a bought crowd with good money. Same technique that they use for Mark Goling to create the impression that there is a groundswell of support out there for him, and these are the delegates that's going to vote and give Dr. Peter Phillips a boot. That is the subliminal message that he wanted the comrades to get. they have corrected the mistake that they made before in Bunting's campaign, because that was a terrible campaign. First of all, the slogan, "We can win," sounded like a defeatist slogan. I think they got it from some president of the United States had campaigned and won. I think it was Obama, they said. And they believed that they could come to Jamaica and win with that, right? And then he produced polls that showed that he stood a better chance against Andrew Holness than Peter Phillips. Now, I don't know why anybody should change a leader who is there already for a man who just simply stand a better chance, right? This time around, they're making sure they don't make that mistake. This time around, Don Anderson is going to places where he can get the results that they want. And as a result of that, Don Anderson started putting out some strange polls. Put out a poll basically saying that 71 point something percent of the people said they're going to vote either PNP or JLP. And the other 28 point something percent said they're going to vote, but they're not make up their mind yet. Where in the history of Jamaica you ever hear 100% of the people said they're going to vote? Not even one smaddy never said they're not vote. So that is telling you that that polling was done somewhere where the people are highly, highly political. And the only place that I can think of are rum bars. It's the only place where you can go when the man them drink them rum and them talk about all kind of events, right? Politics, religion, man and woman story, you name it. So where else could they have gone and gotten that kind of poll result? So it is clearly showing that Don Anderson is a pollster that is being paid to get a certain result. So he goes to the places and get the results there. If we are correct that this is a manipulation by Don Anderson, if we are correct in our assumption, because where him could possibly go here 100% of the people said they're going to vote, can't be on the streets of Jamaica. So he went somewhere to get that result. And if he could get that result, it means that the poll itself is not reliable. Because if he can do that, right, what else he would not do? And that is why that particular poll is not reliable. And the ones that he has been doing before, that's showing 60 or 70% of the people said they're going to vote, they fall into the same category. You can't trust them because they're just not credible. So, in this case, though, where Bunting was launching a hell of an assault on Peter Phillips, talking about how he's not fit, and, him showing himself at the, exercise and all them thing there, show off him the sexy legs them and show the people how I'm fit, right? And Peter Phillips is not. How I'm young and Peter Phillips old, and all them distinctions there that have not at all to do with what I'm going to do for Jamaica. I seem to recall that he never had nothing to say about that either. Like Mark don't have nothing to say about what he going to do for Jamaica, because it's all public relations. And Don Anderson getting them results that they need and they want in order to influence public opinion in the general society, and more particularly with the comrades in the party. The exact same strategy that they're employing today with Mark Golding. So, what did Peter Phillips do? Let me show you, my peeps. That's right. Simply do his own poll, right? And since Bunting's poll was thought to be dodgy, because perhaps of the questions that was asked, they weren't quite as sophisticated as they are now, it was easy for the PNP to go and do a proper poll and get the results that one may say closely resemble what the truth is. So what it is that it said, let me bring it closer. So Bunting's team asked the question of the respondents, which of the two PNP persons, Peter Bunting or Peter Phillips, do you feel have a better chance of winning against Andrew Holness in a national election? 29% said none. 36% said Bunting. 16% said Phillips. And 19% said they were unsure. Right? So this poll that Bunting did had him leading 36 to Peter Phillips, as people feeling that Bunting had a better chance to win at the poll. And that poll, remember, was done by Don Anderson. This poll that was commissioned by the Peter Phillips camp was done by Bill Johnson between August 2 and 4. So that it says, the question is, with Bunting as leader of the PNP in an election now, who would you vote for? That is the critical question that Bunting failed to put out. That the Peter Phillips camp went out and asked the question and used a pollster that is credible. Bunting failed to put out the information, so they knew that he must have asked the question, and if the answer was favorable to him, he would have put it out. It's not favorable. So they went and they did it themselves. With Bunting as leader of the PNP in an election now, who would you vote for? What did the people say? 36% said Holness, 27% said Bunting, 12% said they're unsure, and 23% said none. Right? So they're showing in this poll that Bunting not gone nowhere near Andrew Holness at all, right, in terms of winning. As a matter of fact, if you look at the question that was asked, the One PNP campaign is releasing the findings of one of the poll questions. And what was the question asked? If the election were being held today and Peter Phillips was party leader of PNP and opposition leader, do you think you would probably vote for the JLP? Definitely vote for the JLP? Probably vote for the PNP? Definitely vote for the PNP? Or probably would not vote as things stand now? Responding to that, Holness got 34%. Peter Phillips, 32%. 22% said they're not voting. 2% refused to answer. And 10% said they were undecided. When they asked the same question, what if Peter Bunting were the leader of the PNP and opposition leader? This is showing the respondents that Bill Johnson interviewed said that 2% more said they would have voted for Holness if Bunting was the leader. And only 27% said they would have voted for him. When it comes to the undecided, 2 more, right, said they were undecided. And where it says not voting, 1% more said they would not vote. So the PNP would have been in a worse position, according to this poll, had they switched to Peter Bunting as things stood at the time when the poll was done. And that was what Peter Phillips did to counteract all of those polling and negative polling that they were doing against him. He just went and got a credible pollster already in the market. Now, as it stands now, there's only one real pollster in the market, that is Don Anderson. You do have the Blue Dot poll, but them not find them footing yet. The only way Holness could swing this thing, using the same technique that Peter Phillips used, that is part of his strategy, is to go get a pollster from overseas that has credibility. Right? For example, him can go find the one in the United States or any one of them that said that Trump was going to win. You understand? And bring them here and do the poll to counteract what it is the risers are doing, because it is having an effect upon the minds of people when the pollster is saying, this is what them other set of people think, right? And you not doing nothing about it? Well, I don't know about them strategy there, but you should know what you're doing. So that is how you play the game. And that is how you bring off the victory. Yes, Bunting was beaten by 76 votes. Now, I see Andrew him sit down taking all them blows. He sits down and taking all these blows like Muhammad Ali. Which fight was Muhammad Ali in when he was soaking up all them blows? Was it Foreman? I don't think it was Foreman, you know. I think it was the other one of his rivals. And him took the blows for about 6 rounds. My man thump him and thump him and thump him and thump him and thump him. And him took all the blows. And all of a sudden, when him think him tired, I think it was Ken Norton, you know. It was Norton. And when him think Ken Norton tired, man, like I think it was the 7th round, him started give him some licks. Boom, boom, bam, boop, boops, him drop a ground. Right? So Holden is taking all them blows. Now, whether or not him have something up him sleeve, we don't know. But to allow the Englishman the run of the field with the propaganda machine, I don't know if that is a wise decision, but that is not for me to say. So I brought this to your attention, my peeps, to show you that it's the very same game that is being played. The difference is, whereas Peter Phillips, because he was in a campaign, used his head and came up with a response that kept him above water. Andrew Holness not doing any such thing. He not defend himself at all. Not defend himself. And taking the blows. So, how that will turn out, my peeps, I have no clue. I wait with you and I watch to see if the lightning will strike at the same place twice. But I have this feeling that the Labour right them have something up them sleeves. Them too quiet. As to how the Englishman will counteract whatever they come in with, that is left to be seen. But we know that the Englishman himself is damaged. Damaged. Bad, bad, bad. Damaged beyond repair. Yes, me peeps. Him right off. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, for giving the video a thumbs up, for sharing, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and walk good.